Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Still figuring out the ramifications of E3, falling the hell apart.
Yes.
But now it seems like all the other studios, all the major companies that were going to be taking part have released various statements, or we're going to break down all the different people that were going to be there.
Well, this is essentially it. In the hours following the cancellation of E3, the likes of Kotaku and GameSpot and other outlets essentially, collated all the responses from the companies. So we're going to run through those, kind of look at what games they might have announced, and essentially look at the no-shows as well, because some people haven't commented on them yet, like Sony, which we'll get to in a minute. But yes, the statement from the ESA, like we mentioned in the E3 cancellation video, is that they're essentially going to try to coordinate a new digital kind of streaming service that will offset the conferences that have been lost. So essentially direct styles and stuff like that. Whether or not it's going to be a sort of big E3 branded thing still, or whether they're going to, or whether the other companies are going to do their own individual thing, is yet to be seen. But we can glean some of that from these responses. So first up, we have Microsoft, who is going to do an Xbox digital event to replace their conference. However, we don't know whether it's still going to be in June. That's the big question surrounding a lot of these responses, because obviously that's when E3 was going to go ahead, but in a lot of these cases, they haven't really said when they're going to replace their conferences. Like, is it going to still take place in that month? Is it going to be sooner? Is it going to be later? We don't know, but their official statement was, quote, "E3 has always been an important moment for Team Xbox. Given this decision, this year we'll celebrate the next generation of gaming with the Xbox community and all who love to play via an Xbox digital event. Details on timing and more in the coming weeks."
They must be kicking themselves.
I know.
Considering how much this was an open goal, and we've all been talking about it as an open goal. Sony aren't even going to be there. We'll talk about Sony in a little bit. But even Nintendo have gone back and forward as to whether they're going to be there. My point is that they have, like Xbox, Microsoft, have a new system to drop. They assume they have a whole bunch of games they want to show, and they need to do the full breakdown of the specs, and we all want it as well.
Well,
and
that's
now,
it.
Things have happened.
That's it, man. Like, a cancellation, like E3 being cancelled was going to be, dramatic any year it happened, but this year in particular, with the new consoles about to be launched, it's incredibly substantial. And like you said, especially for Microsoft, who were planning to do their big next-gen reveal at E3. They were probably going to talk about next-gen games, like you said, the specs, the price, presumably, everything, and now that's kind of been sort of taken away. But I don't think it will have a huge impact on their plans, just because back in 2013 they held their own conference. They didn't announce they didn't announce the Xbox One at E3. That was supplementary. They announced it before then, so they could easily have their own, open goal, as it were, like in a motion.
Phil Spencer booting a little football. I think this is interesting though, because you think about the way that Nintendo started, pioneering the Nintendo Direct. Like, hey, look, we don't need all the bluster and the stage show and all the potential cringe of live show hosts and everything. We just want to give you everything, just a live stream. Here's all the trailers with very minimal, distractions in between. And then obviously Sony went, well, that's cool. We'll do exactly that. And State of Play is literally beat for beat a rip-off of the Nintendo Direct. Microsoft, for the most part, stayed away from that. And Phil Spencer was like, look, we still value E3. We think it's a worthwhile place to be. And we like what it represents in the gaming calendar. But with this being the cancellation, they're almost forced to now do what would a Microsoft Direct or an Xbox Direct look like. I'm kind of interested to see what the formatting is, if they end up, if they just go with what Nintendo or Sony have done, if they end up trying to do a makeshift live show or something. Like, I don't know how the hell you try and recreate, by the way, this is the year of the Xbox, away from E3.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting position that Microsoft are in, because like you said, they haven't done this before, and as a bunch of companies were pulling out of E3, even last year, they were always the pillar that kind of made it remain relevant. Obviously, the likes of Ubisoft and EA or whatever, they're big, but to have one of the big three there to support your show, that is huge. And now I wonder whether, this is entirely speculation, but I wonder whether we get to 2021 when E3 comes back and Microsoft just kind of realizes, maybe we don't need to do this anymore. Maybe we've got our own stuff. We've established it last year. Maybe we just carry this on. Those kind of knock-on effects are going to be interesting to watch unravel in the coming months.
Because just as like a quick pointer as to one of the biggest repercussions of E3 not happening is all sorts of indie devs and upstart studios. All those conversations between different deal makers never happen. That sort of avenue to get your game off the ground isn't there anymore. And Jason Schreier's talked a lot about that on Kotaku. But that's the thing, going forward, if the bigger companies realize that, hey, look, we can just use social media, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, to get our message out, then we don't even need E3. We don't need to pay the booth costs and everything.
Well, that's it. There's a big distinction, and I want to make this clear, like you said, between the conferences that actually happen before the E3 event and the actual E3 event itself, which, like you said, is so beneficial for networking and to get those smaller games off the ground.
Networking's the word that I want.
Networking is the word. That's the thing that's really going to, take a hit this year. The conferences can always be replicated, and that's what we're going through now, is how they're going to be replicated and what's going on. So I will move to Nintendo, because I don't even know what Nintendo are planning on doing this year, because they're always weird when it comes to E3.
Maybe thinking of a game that isn't Animal Crossing?
Maybe.
Well,
exactly, Scott, because they were always going to do their directs anyway, and I assume they're going to continue doing their directs. But it's an interesting year for Nintendo, because we were talking about this the other day off camera. But what do they actually have this year?
Well, at the minute, it's literally Animal Crossing, and that's it.
So they need some kind of event to kind of get people continuing to buy the Switch. I mean, there's a lot of great games out already, but that they need to have a plan in motion for the next few years.
They just dropped Breath of the Wild 2.
What?
What? I mean, they've got a trailer. We know it's coming. And they're just like, hey, I know it's a transitional year. I know we haven't got anything else. We've got Animal Crossing. Only, a third of the overall Switch populace care about that. I love Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
But it's not as big as something like Breath of the Wild. And then they just go, hey, JP.
I mean,
Breath of the Wild 2.
That's so left field. I didn't even consider it. It's kind of broken my mind. But I would play hours and hours and hours and hours of Breath of the Wild 2. That would be all they need for this year, in my opinion.
Or Metroid, or just word of whatever Mario's doing.
Oh, next. Metroid's never coming out. That's not actually
hey, we said
happening.
That about The Last Guardian and Shenmue 3.
That's very true. I want to bring up Sony, because obviously they weren't going to be at E3, but it's kind of weird. We want to bring them up because they haven't really mentioned anything to do with sort of E3 or their plans or what's happening in the world right now. They haven't talked about how that might have impacted them. It's strange, because for the longest time we reported and rumors were circulating that they were going to have their own PlayStation 5 reveal event. That was last month. Obviously that's been and gone. Now there's
David Jaffe, lying to the world.
Exactly, David. What's your game? I do love you, but so we don't know what's going on with it. We don't know if they're going to do a response, but their quietness it's starting to become a bit unnerving. They don't owe anyone anything, but at the same time,
I tell you what stands out with Sony is that I forget which member of their team said that they were essentially waiting for the Xbox pricing to go forward. They want to know exactly what their Series X is going to be, sold as, and then they would go forward with the PS5, the more details on the PS5. So it's a very reactive structure, which is the way that Sony, for me, have always been, and I think they, for the most part, they do well. But at the same time, if all of this is thrown out of whack and they're just, they're waiting to see what their competitor's going to do, when that competitor is then completely overhauling their plans, do they just literally watch the potential live stream and then go, right, cool, let's do our live stream now, state of play 1 month after?
I don't know, man. Everything is in total flux. I want to move on to WB, because they weren't officially supposed to actually be there. They never revealed that they were going to do a booth, but since E3 has been cancelled, there's been a bunch of rumors, and we did a video on it earlier this morning about the fact that they were going to do their first ever E3 conference to reveal Batman, Rocksteady's game, Harry Potter RPG, the Matrix game.
Maybe that. I can't think of any other Warner Brothers properties other than just Looney Tunes. But either way, the fact that they're stepping forward and doing what Bethesda did about 3 years ago, where they said, "Look, we have enough things to announce." And Warner Brothers, as in the game space, they're a long time coming. It's been 5 years since Arkham Knight. The Harry Potter game was leaked. We saw gameplay, and then they pulled it from every outlet because it wasn't meant to be shown yet. And whatever the hell Rocksteady are working on, that's a massive deal as well. But I mean, obviously, I don't know what the hell they're going to do unless they do another live stream.
Well, that's it. I mean, I don't know if they're going to comment on it. I don't know if they're going to reveal their plans, but it might just be a live stream. They might just give their games that they were going to, show at their conference to other people, like maybe a Sony or a Microsoft, and highlight them there. That might be less faff on for them and might be more cost effective. I don't know, but I do know what what EA is planning on doing. And it's kind of a bit of all nothing, Scott Tilford, I'm afraid. They are reviewing plans of what to do, because they always have their EA Play, which is just the day before E3 starts. So it's kind of separate anyway, but obviously that's not going ahead. And to be honest, I think they're going to be the company that's the least affected by this, because they're E3 presentations in the past have been kind of naff, and that's not because I have a personal vendetta against EA, but the way they roll things out, they'll show you behind the scenes of a new Star Wars game. They'll get a footballer on stage. They'll show off the new FIFA, and it's always very weird because they have more interest, I think, in the streaming aspect of it. When Battlefield is announced or something, they'll have an hour's gameplay of it.
When they had Snoop Dogg, he brought all of his weed in.
Exactly,
and it was
that.
Weed 3. Yeah, that was a great time.
Exactly that.
That's not my joke. That's Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb. But
still, and like that's a cool little unique thing that they pioneered. But obviously that won't go ahead. So I wonder if they replace it at all, because they can't do that because that's so streaming heavy. They need all the people there. That's not a digital thing. But I don't know whether they'll even bother.
For me, I think EA treat it more like the live customer consumer show, as opposed to this is where we're going to reveal our next new game.
Yeah.
I think they're in that cycle with sports games where they just go, you know what you're going to get from an EA press conference. The days of sort of saying like, oh, is it going to be the new Mass Effect? Is it going to be the new James Bond game or something? I think those days have kind of long gone, because they have been so locked into here's the next FIFA, here's the next Madden, here's the next thing. And so I think they're not going to lose that much. No one who follows the gaming industry like we do cares about EA's spot on that stage.
Yes, I fully agree, and I think that I was looking at the games that they might have in development or have confirmed that they've got in development before, and there's not much that they could have actually talked about. There's Anthem Season 2, there's the sports games,
Every
like
time
you said.
I forget about Anthem.
Of course, Anthem did come out, and they're apparently redoing it, but yeah, we had Dragon Age 4, that's only had a brief trailer so far, and we've got Battlefield 2021, but that's not out until next year, so
Very good point.
It might have been a bit too early to show anything off for that game anyway, so I don't think they're conference-wise they're going to be impacted
the thing is,
too much.
With the properties that they own, something like Star Wars, they already have Star Wars Celebration. They have other sort of movie and TV show things to tie it into. I don't think EA think of E3 the way that we do.
No, I don't think they do. They've got that Project Maverick, that Star Wars game that was leaked, but even that, I think that's all they've really got on the Star Wars front. We know that Jedi Fallen Order 2 is in development, but I can't imagine they've got anything ready to show off, so maybe it's better to just let it gestate and go on. But I do have some good news. Devolver Digital.
I love Devolver so much.
Just mangled that. Devolver Digital, who have, they've done some absolutely great live streams over the past few years.
Genuinely,
when it comes to their conferences.
Haven't seen the Devolver live shows for the last 2 or 3 years, especially when they started doing it. Just a giant P-take of the way that E3 usually goes down. Yeah. Hyperactive CEOs, the idea that you can early access, but they treat it as you can buy into the concept for something. It's phenomenal. They're absolutely slaying it.
Well, fortunately, they are doing the same thing yet again this year. They have announced that, quote, "The week of E3 has always been a big part of what we do, and we are genuinely bummed about the cancellation of the event itself. Lots to juggle, but right now we plan on having a live stream Devolver Direct / press conference and possibly more." So essentially, we're going to get, nothing's really going to change in that front. They've always had a Mick Takey live stream parody thing, and I imagine that's even going to be even more topical this time around.
They'll do a version where, I always forget the woman's name who leads those conferences, but they have such a brilliant actress that leads those shows as the big corporate CEO. I think they'll stick her in a bunker and have her sort of reporting from the underground, like Fallout style or something.
I can imagine that.
Anything with her would be brilliant. Like I said, I can't praise that stuff enough. They only put in 2 or 3 sort of game announcements in that stuff. Most of it is one big comedy sketch, but I think they do it immaculately well. And I guess if everyone's looking for a bit of comedy relief around that time of year, missing E3, hopefully they can kind of fill the gap.
Exactly, that's exactly what we're going to need come June. And finally, we have Ubisoft, who are essentially just going to do the same thing that Microsoft is. They're looking to coordinate another digital event. I think it's going to be practically the same as what they would normally have. But I was looking at the games that they've got to announce, and there's obviously the Assassin's Creed game.
Splinter Cell?
No, Splinter Cell's not happening, man. If Splinter Cell was not going to happen already, it's definitely not going to be announced now.
No, I mean, you think, if they wanted to, get the, what do you call the, what's this?
I don't know.
When you get some goodwill back from the fans and all that.
That's how you do it.
Why not? That's how you sow the goodwill. That's you casting the goodwill droplets into the fields. I think if they just put a logo out, a title screen. The thing is, the dream way to announce Splinter Cell would be to knock the lights off in a stage hall and have the noise in the background, which they're never going to do now.
They're never going to do it now, but maybe it's fine because they've got other games to work on. Maybe it'll just be updates of stuff like, like the upcoming Assassin's Creed. Maybe that'll get announced because they need to start promoting that.
That's true.
Beyond Good and Evil 2. They pushed a lot of games last year to the fall of this year, like Watch Dogs and that Gods and Monsters game, I think, as well, and Rainbow Six Siege. I think it's actually called Rainbow Six Siege Quarantine, which is going to be, it's an interesting title.
Speaking of games that will never come out, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
No, it's never happening, Scott.
No faith in that.
We've waited too long for Beyond Good and Evil 2, and I remember when it was re-announced a few years ago, and they said it was day 0 of development, which never bodes well. You can't just do that.
The story goes that when the trailer was shown to all of us, when we saw it live, one of the creative director, one of the main team members, Patrice Desley or whatever whatever you call the dude, was sitting at home and watched it live as we did, and then went, oh, and then it happened from there. So I want to believe that rumor, even if it's not true. But yeah,
I love that. Isn't that exactly what happened with the? Was it Final Fantasy VII or was it Resident Evil 2?
Final Fantasy VII's remake. That was apparently a rumor that Tetsuya Nomura didn't know he was the director on the game until he saw the trailer go out and saw his own name in the trailer.
Brilliant.
And then went, oh, so it is actually going ahead. I best make some phone calls. But apparently that wasn't actually true in the end. But in this case, I hope that it is, even because it means game development from various bunkers. Anyway, let us know what you think down in the comments below of the future of E3. Would you care about it if it was a live stream instead of a live show? And what would you want to change going forward? For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.